Picture yourself alone on a desolate London street, the year 1895, shrouded in a fog so thick it swallows the world around you. The gas lamps cast feeble halos, barely piercing the gloom, and the air carries a chill that seeps into your bones. You're hurrying along Baker Street, your heart pounding, when a piercing cry cuts through the measter, desperate, almost inhuman wail. You freeze, straining to hear, and then it comes again, fainter, as if swallowed by the night. Footsteps echo, rapid and uneven, and from the haze emerges a figure, wild-eyed, clutching a crumpled letter like it's his last tether to hope. The door to 221B Baker Street swings open, and there stands Sherlock Holmes, his silhouette sharp against the warm glow within, his eyes gleaming with a predator's focus. "What is it, man?" he demands, voice like a blade. The stranger gasps. "A boy, vanished, gone without a trace." That, my friends, is where our story begins, tale of mystery, danger, and the relentless pursuit of truth in Sherlock Holmes and the vanished boy of Priory School. This is no ordinary case. It's a puzzle that will test the greatest detective of all time, and you're invited to unravel it with us. So, grab a warm drink, dim the lights, and let's dive into this chilling adventure. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist in this gripping tale. It's a dreary morning in 1895, and the great city of London hums with its usual chaos carriages rattling over cobblestones, street vendors hawking their wares, and the distant whistle of a steam train. But inside the cozy, cluttered rooms of 221B Baker Street, the air is thick with anticipation. Sherlock Holmes, the world's greatest consulting detective, is restless. His violin lies untouched on a velvet cushion, its strings silent for once. His pipe, however, is working overtime, sending curls of pungent smoke spiraling toward the ceiling. Dr. John Watson, his steadfast friend and chronicler, sits by the fire, scribbling notes from their last case, but even he senses the storm brewing in Holmes's mind. "You're pacing again, Holmes," Watson remarks, glancing up. "No case, no peace, eh?" Holmes's lips twitch into a wry smile. "A mind without a problem, Watson, is like a blade without a whetstone, dull and useless." And just as he speaks, fate delivers. A sharp, insistent knock echoes through the room, shattering the quiet dot. Mrs. Hudson, ever the patient landlady, opens the door to reveal a man who looks like he's been dragged through the underworld and back. This is Dr. Thornycroft Huxtable, headmaster of the illustrious Priory School in the remote moors of Mackleton, northern England. His face is ashen, his eyes bloodshot, and his frock coat is rumpled as if he's travelled through the night without rest. In his trembling hands, he clutches a crumpled letter, its edges frayed from nervous handling. "Mr. Holmes," he stammers, his voice hoarse with desperation, "I beg you, you are my only hope. A boy has vanished from my school, Arthur, Lord Saltier, heir to the Duke of Holdernesse. He's gone, sir, gone without a trace, and I fear he may be lost forever." Watson sets his pen down, his doctor's instincts kicking in as he notes the man's near collapse. Holmes, however, is all business, motioning Huxtable to a chair. "Details, man," he says sharply. Every fact, no matter how small, Huxtable's story tumbles out like a river breaching a dam. The Priory School, nestled in the wild, wind-swept moors of Mackleton, is a bastion of education for England's elite. Its stone walls and ivy-clad towers stand isolated, surrounded by miles of rugged heath and jagged hills, a place where the wind howls like a living thing. Young Arthur, just 10 years old, is the only son of the Duke of Holdernesse, a man whose wealth and influence could move mountains. 2 nights ago, Arthur was tucked into his dormitory bed, safe within the school's fortified grounds. The dormitory was locked, the windows barred, the night watchman vigilant. Yet, when the matron checked at dawn, Arthur's bed was empty. His nightclothes neatly folded, and his boots missing. No windows were broken, no doors forced, no alarms raised. It was as if the boy had been plucked from the world by an unseen hand. Huxtable's voice breaks as he describes the search that followed, teachers scouring the grounds, groundskeepers combing the moors, local police questioning every villager within 10 miles. Nothing, not a footprint, not a whisper of the boy. Then Huxtable reveals the letter. He pulls it from his pocket, its paper-stained and creased, and hands it to Holmes. The detective's eyes scan the scrawled words. £5,000 for the boy's return. No police, or he dies. Instructions to follow. No signature, no seal, just a crude message delivered to the school's gate under cover of darkness. Watson gasps, but Holmes's face is unreadable, his mind already racing. "When did you receive this?" he asks, his tone clipped. "Yesterday morning," Huxtable replies. "I came straight to you, the Duke." He's distraught, but he insists on discretion. A scandal could ruin him. Holmes's eyes narrow at the mention of the Duke. "Discretion," he murmurs, "or something else." He leans back, steepling his fingers, and begins to question Huxtable with surgical precision. Was Arthur unhappy? Did he speak of running away? Were there strangers near the school? Huxtable insists the boy was content, a bright lad with a quick smile, adored by his peers and teachers alike. But Holmes catches a flicker of unease in the headmaster's eyes when pressed about the Duke's role. "The Duke is a busy man," Huxtable says, too quickly. He trusts the school implicitly. Holmes's silence speaks volumes. He's not convinced. Let's pause here to set the stage. This isn't just a missing child case. It's a powder keg. The Duke of Holdernesse is a titan of society, his name synonymous with power. His son's disappearance could ignite a firestorm of gossip, threatening reputations and fortunes. Holmes knows this, and he smells something deeper, a conspiracy, perhaps, or a betrayal lurking in the shadows. The moors of Mackleton, with their desolate beauty and hidden dangers, are the perfect backdrop for such a mystery. Watson, ever practical, is already packing their bags, his revolver tucked discreetly in his coat. "The moors, Holmes," he says, half excited. "They're no place for a child alone." Holmes nods, his mind already mapping the terrain. "Nor for a kidnapper to hide, Watson. We'll find them both." As Holmes and Watson prepare to board the next train to Mackleton, the weight of the case settles over them. A boy is missing, a ransom demanded, and secrets are piling up like storm clouds. The Priory School, with its ancient walls and whispered legends, holds the key, but what will they find there? A frightened child, a cunning criminal, or something far darker? This is Sherlock Holmes at his finest, folks, and we're just getting started. In the next chapter, we'll step onto the haunting moors of Mackleton, where the first clues and the first dangers await. What do you think happened to young Arthur? Was he taken, or did he run? Drop your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're with us for every twist and turn. Let's solve this mystery together. The steam train rattles through the English countryside, its iron wheels grinding a steady rhythm as it carries. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson toward the wilds of Mackleton. Welcome back, friends, to our gripping tale of Sherlock Holmes and the vanished boy of Priory School. If you missed Chapter 1, pause now and catch up. You'll need every clue to keep up with this mystery. Last time, we left Baker Street with a desperate plea from Dr. Thornycroft Huxtable, headmaster of the Priory School, where young Arthur, Lord Saltire, heir to the Duke of Holdernesse, vanished without a trace, a ransom note demanding £5,000, and a locked dormitory with no signs of a break-in have set Holmes's mind ablaze. Now, we're plunging into the eerie moors of northern England, where the landscape itself seems to guard its secrets. This chapter is brimming with suspense, cryptic clues, and the first whispers of danger. So, settle in, hit that like button, and let's step into the fog together. The journey north is a slow one, the train cutting through fields that give way to rugged hills and vast, untamed heaths. Watson stares out the window, his brow furrowed. Holmes, these moors, they're no place for a boy of 10. If he's out there, alone. His voice trails off, heavy with worry. Holmes, leaning back in the compartment, his eyes half closed, replies, "Alone, Watson? I doubt it. Someone orchestrated this, and the moors will betray them." His tone is calm, but there's a spark in his gaze that Watson knows while the detective is already hunting. Mackleton's station is a lonely outpost, a wooden platform battered by relentless winds. As Holmes and Watson step onto the platform, the air is sharp with the scent of wet earth and heather, and the moors stretch before them like a living thing, their rolling hills cloaked in mist. A grizzled carriage driver, his face weathered as the rocks around him, waits with a horse-drawn trap. "Priory School, gents," he grumbles, eyeing them warily. "Queer goings-on up there. Folks say the moors take what they want." Watson scoffs, but Holmes listens, his mind cataloguing every word as they climb aboard. The road to the Priory School winds through the moors, the landscape growing wilder with every mile. Twisted trees claw at the sky, and sudden dips in the terrain reveal hidden bogs that could swallow a man whole. The school itself appears like a fortress from a Gothic tale, its grey stone towers rising from the mist, ivy clinging to walls that have stood for centuries. Dr. Huxtable meets them at the iron gates, his face drawn, his eyes darting as if expecting danger from the shadows. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, thank you for coming," he says, his voice strained. "The Duke arrived this morning. He's insistent on results." Holmes's lips twitch, but he says nothing, following Huxtable into the school's grand hall. The air inside is heavy with the scent of wax polish and old books. But there's an electric tension. Teachers huddle in whispered conferences. Students steal nervous glances, and the absence of young Arthur feels like a wound in the very walls. Holmes wastes no time. "The boys' dormitory," he says, his voice cutting through Huxtable's anxious chatter. "Take me there." They climb a creaking staircase to a long corridor lined with heavy oak doors. Arthur's dormitory is a stark room, its rows of iron-framed beds standing like silent sentinels. The boy's bed is neatly made, his nightclothes folded with eerie precision, as if he'd never slept in them. Holmes moves like a bloodhound, his eyes scanning every inch. He kneels by the bed, running his fingers along the floorboards, then inspects the barred window overlooking the moors. "No signs of force," he murmurs. "No scratches, no broken locks." Watson frowns, puzzled. Then how did he leave Holmes? A locked room, a barred window. Did he vanish into thin air? Holmes's eyes gleam, Not quite, Watson. The simplest explanation is often the most elusive. He lifts the mattress, revealing a crumpled piece of paper-crude map, scratched in pencil, showing a path from the school to a point marked X deep in the moors. Watson leans closer. A boy's doodle, he asks. Holmes shakes his head. No, Watson. A plan, whether Arthur's or someone else's, we'll soon find out. Huxtable, hovering at the door, swears he's never seen the map before. Arthur was happy here, he insists, his voice trembling. He had no reason to run. Holmes presses him, his questions sharp as a scalpel. Was Arthur troubled? Did he mention strangers? What of the staff? The headmaster's answers are vague, his eyes flickering when Holmes mentions the Duke. His Grace is a private man, Huxtable says, too quickly. He trusts us to care for his son. Holmes's silence is louder than words. He smells deception. Stepping outside, he follows a narrow path from the dormitory to the edge of the school's grounds, where the moors begin. The grass is damp, the air thick with the promise of rain. Holmes stops abruptly, crouching to examine the ground. There, in the soft mud, is a faint marker bicycle tire, fresh and unmistakable. Watson, he calls, his voice alive with purpose. Here's our thread. Someone rode here, and not long ago. Watson peers at the track, his mind racing. A kidnapper's escape, he ventures. Holmes's smile is cryptic, or a boy's, we'll see. Let's take a moment to unpack this. The moors are a character in their own right, vast, treacherous, and perfect for hiding a secret. That bicycle track is a lifeline, a clue that could lead to Arthur or his abductor. Bicycles are swift, silent, and leave little trace for a stealthy getaway. But whose? And that map under the mattress. It's either a cry for help or a deliberate misdirection. The Duke's arrival adds fuel to the fire. Why is Huxtable so nervous around him? Is the headmaster hiding something, or is he just overwhelmed by the weight of a nobleman's scrutiny? Holmes is already weaving these threads into a tapestry, but he's keeping his cards close. The Priory School feels like a stage, with players moving in the shadows, and Holmes is determined to shine a light on them as Holmes and Watson prepare to meet the Duke. The moors seem to close in, their secrets whispering in the wind. The bicycle track leads somewhere, perhaps to Arthur, perhaps to danger. In Chapter 3, we'll step into the Duke's world of power and privilege, where hidden motives might unravel the mystery or tighten its knots. What do you think that map means? Is Arthur out there, or is he closer than we think? Drop your theories in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe with the notification bell on so you don't miss the next twist. Let's keep chasing the truth together. The Priory School stands like a fortress against the brooding moors of Mackleton, its ancient walls hiding secrets as dark as the fog that cloaks the landscape. Welcome back, sleuths, to our thrilling journey through Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished. Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, go back and catch chapters 1 and 2. You'll need every clue to stay in the game. Last time, Holmes and Watson arrived at the eerie Priory School, where young Arthur, Lord Saltier, heir to the Duke of Holdernesse, vanished from a locked dormitory. A cryptic ransom note, a mysterious map tucked under a mattress, and a fresh bicycle track in the mud have set Holmes's mind racing. Now, we're stepping into the lion's den to meet the Duke himself, a man whose power casts a long shadow over this case. This chapter is packed with tension, hidden motives, and the first cracks in the mystery's facade. So, grab a snack, hit that like button, and let's unravel the next layer of this chilling tale. Holmes and Watson follow Dr. Huxtable through the school's grand corridors, their footsteps echoing on polished stone floors. The air is thick with the scent of wax and old leather, but there's an undercurrent of unease, as if the very walls are holding their breath. Huxtable's hands tremble as he leads them to the headmaster's study, where the Duke of Holdernesse waits. His Grace is particular, Huxtable mutters, his voice low. He insists on discretion. Watson exchanges a glance with Holmes, who remains impassive, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. The study door swings open, revealing a room lined with bookshelves and dominated by a massive oak desk. Behind it stands the Duke, a tall, imposing figure with a face carved from granite stone, aristocratic and unyielding. His grey hair is impeccably combed, his tailored suit a stark contrast to Huxtable's rumpled appearance. "Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice deep and controlled, "I trust you understand the gravity of this matter. My son's safety is paramount, and scandal must be avoided at all costs." Holmes takes a seat without invitation, his posture relaxed but his gaze piercing. "Your Grace," he begins, "tell me about Arthur. His habits, his temperament, his enemies." The Duke's eyes narrow, but he complies, describing Arthur as a bright, obedient boy, fond of books and riding, with no reason to run away. He was safe here, the Duke insists, his tone brooking no argument. This school is the finest in England. Yet Holmes notices the slightest tremor in the Duke's hand as he speaks, a flicker of something for guilt beneath the nobleman's composure. Watson, ever the observer, notes the opulence of the study, a silver inkstand, a portrait of the Duke's late wife, and a locked cabinet that seems oddly out of place. Holmes presses further, asking about the ransom note. The Duke's face darkens. "A vile trick," he snaps. "I'll pay if I must, but I want my son back, not some criminal's game." His words are firm, but Holmes catches a hesitation, a pause that speaks louder than the Duke's bluster. Leaving the study, Holmes and Watson confer in a quiet corner of the corridor. "He's hiding something," Watson whispers. "Did you see his hands? He's not as calm as he pretends." Holmes nods, his mind already dissecting the Duke's words. "A man of his stature doesn't travel to a remote school unless the stakes are personal," he murmurs. "And that cabinet why locket in a headmaster's study?" They decide to investigate the school grounds further, returning to the bicycle track near the dormitory path. The moors stretch endlessly before them, their rolling hills shrouded in mist that seems to shift and whisper. Holmes kneels again, examining the tire mark with a magnifying glass. Narrow tread, well worn, he notes. A common model, but the depth suggests a heavy rider or a load. Watson frowns. "A load? You mean Arthur?" Holmes doesn't answer, his eyes scanning the horizon. He follows the track a few yards, where it veers toward a narrow trail, winding into the moors. "This path," he says, "leads to that X on the map. We'll follow it at first light." Back inside, Holmes requests interviews with the school staff. He speaks to Mrs. Grayson, the matron, a woman with a face like a winter storm. She repeats her story. She checked the dormitory at midnight, and all was well. But Holmes notices her fingers twisting a handkerchief, a nervous tic she can't hide. Next is Jenkins, the night watchman, a burly man with a gruff voice. He admits to a brief nap, but swears no one passed the gates. Holmes's questions are relentless, probing for inconsistencies, but both stick to their tales. Yet there's a moment when Jenkins glances at the floor, avoiding Holmes's gaze, and the detective files it away. As night falls, the school feels like a pressure cooker, every creak of the floorboards amplifying the tension. Watson, ever practical, suggests they rest, but Holmes is restless, pacing the guest room they've been given. The Duke's urgency, Watson, he says, is not just paternal. There's a thread, Hermione power, or something deeper. Let's pause and dig into this. The Duke is a titan, his influence a web that stretches across England. His insistence on discretion screams of more than just a father's worry. Could it be a scandal, a rival, or a family secret? That locked cabinet in the study is a nagging detail, a locked door in a case full of them. The bicycle track and the map point to the moors, but why would a kidnapper or Arthur choose such a treacherous route? The staff's nervousness only thickens the plot. Mrs. Grayson's fidgeting, Jenkins's averted eye, small cracks in their stories that Holmes is already exploiting. The moors themselves are a wild card, a vast maze where a boy could be hidden, or worse. Holmes is playing a high-stakes game, and every move counts. As Holmes and Watson prepare for a dawn trek into the moors, the mystery deepens. The Duke's shadow looms large, but is he a grieving father or a man guarding a dangerous truth? In Chapter 4, we'll venture into the wild heart of the moors, following that bicycle track to its source and, maybe to Arthur himself, what's the Duke hiding, and what secrets are buried in the fog. Drop your theories in the comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe with the bell on to catch every twist in this case. Let's keep hunting the truth together. The moors of Mackleton stretch like an endless sea of shadow, their windswept hills cloaked in a mist that seems to breathe with secrets. Welcome back, mystery lovers, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just tuning in, go back and watch chapters 1 through 3. You'll need every piece of this puzzle to keep up with the master detective. Last time, we met the imposing Duke of Holdernesse, whose guarded demeanor and insistence on discretion raised Holmes's suspicions. A bicycle track in the mud, a cryptic map marked with an X, and the nervous ticks of the school's staff have tightened the screws of this case. Now, as dawn breaks over the Priory School, Holmes and Watson are ready to venture into the wild moors, following a trail that could lead to young Arthur, Lord Salteror, to danger. This chapter is a deep dive into the eerie wilderness, packed with suspense, chilling discoveries, and a web of clues that will leave you guessing. So, grab a blanket, hit that like button, and let's plunge into the heart of the mystery. First light of dawn paints the moors in shades of gold and grey, but the air is cold, biting at Holmes and Watson as they step out from the Priory School's iron gates. The school looms behind them, its Gothic towers stark against the pale sky, a silent witness to the drama unfolding. Holmes carries a small satchel with his tools, a magnifying glass, a notebook, a compass, and his expression is one of fierce determination. Watson, ever the soldier, has his revolver tucked in his coat, his eyes scanning the horizon for threats. Holmes, he says, his breath visible in the chill, this place feels alive, like it's watching us. Holmes's lips curve into a faint smile. The moors are a stage, Watson, and every blade of grass has a story to tell. We just need to listen. Their destination is the trail marked by the bicycle track, leading to the mysterious X. On the map found under Arthur's mattress, the moors are treacherous, with hidden bogs and rocky outcrops. But Holmes moves with the precision of a hunter, his eyes locked on the ground. The bicycle track is faint but unmistakable, a narrow groove, cutting through the damp earth. Holmes kneels, his magnifying glass glinting as he studies the tread. The same tire, Watson, he confirms. Deeply pressed, suggesting weight either a heavy rider or a passenger. Watson frowns, his mind grappling with the possibilities. Arthur couldn't weigh enough to leave such a mark. A kidnapper, then? Holmes doesn't answer, following the track as it winds deeper into the moors. The path is narrow, overgrown with heather and gorse, and the mist swirls around them, muffling their footsteps. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant cry of a curlew, its mournful wail echoing like a warning. Holmes pauses at a fork in the trail, where the tracks split one path, veering toward a cluster of rocky hills, the other descending into a low, boggy valley. He examines the ground, noting a scuff mark where the tire veers toward the hills. "This way," he says, his voice low but certain. As they climb, the terrain grows rugged, the hills rising like the bones of the earth. Watson, less agile than his friend, struggles to keep pace, his boots slipping on loose stones. "Holmes, what are we looking for?" He pants. "A boy, a hideout. This feels like chasing ghosts." Holmes's eyes gleam with intensity. "Not ghosts, Watson, facts. The moors hide, but they don't lie." They reach a small plateau, where the track abruptly ends at the base of a craggy outcrop. Holmes scans the area, his gaze settling on a patch of disturbed earth near a boulder. He kneels again, brushing away dirt to reveal a small metal object half buried in the soil, a brass button engraved with a crest. Watson leans closer. "That's the Priory School's emblem," he says, surprised. "A student's." Holmes shakes his head, pocketing the button. "Or a teacher's. Someone was here, and they were careless." The discovery sends a chill through Watson, but Holmes is already moving, circling the outcrop like a predator. He finds a narrow crevice, barely wide enough for a man, leading into a shallow cave. Inside, the air is damp, the walls slick with moss. Holmes lights a match, its flicker revealing a pile of straw in one corner, a torn blanket, and most telling, a small, empty tin that once held biscuits. "Someone camped here," Holmes murmurs, inspecting the tin. "Recently, the edges are still sharp, no rust." Watson's heart sinks. "Arthur?" he asks, dreading the answer. Holmes's face is unreadable, perhaps, or someone who wanted us to think so. He examines the cave floor, noting scuff marks and a faint smudge of what looks like blood. Just a drop, but enough to make Watson's stomach turn. "Holmes, if the boy was hurt." Holmes cuts him off. "Speculation, Watson. We need more." They emerge from the cave, the moors stretching endlessly around them. Holmes consults the crude map, aligning it with his compass. The X is close, marked near a cluster of standing stones a mile further. The trek is grueling, the ground uneven, the mist thickening as the sun climbs. Watson's unease grows with every step. "This feels wrong, Holmes. Too exposed. If someone took Arthur, why bring him out here?" Holmes's eyes narrow. "To hide him where no one would look or to stage a disappearance." The moors are a perfect mask. They reach the standing stones, ancient monoliths weathered by centuries of wind and rain. The bicycle track reappears, circling the stones before vanishing into the heather. Holmes examines the ground, finding a second clue, a piece of torn cloth, blue and finely woven, caught on a thorny bush. "School uniform," he says, holding it up, but not Arthur's size too large. The clues are piling up, but they only deepen the mystery. The brass button, the cave's makeshift camp, the blood, the torn clothage is a thread in a tapestry Holmes is weaving, but the pattern is still unclear. Was Arthur here, or is someone leading them on a wild chase? The Duke's guarded demeanour looms in Holmes's mind, as does Huxtable's nervousness and the staff's evasive answers. "We're missing something, Watson," Holmes says, his voice taut. "The school holds the key, but the moors are the lock." He decides they must return to question the staff further, particularly about that button and cloth. But as they turn back, a low whistle cuts through the mist-knot, a bird, but human, deliberate. Watson's hand goes to his revolver, but Holmes grips his arm. "Wait," he whispers, "we're being watched." The whistle fades, leaving only the wind's howl. Holmes scans the moors, but the mist is too thick, concealing whoever or whatever is out there. The sense of being hunted settles over them like a shroud. Watson's heart pounds, but Holmes is calm, his mind a steel trap. "Whoever they are, they've made their first mistake," he says. "They've shown themselves." The trek back to the school is tense, every rustle in the heather a potential threat. Watson keeps his revolver ready, while Holmes's eyes dart, cataloguing every detail, the angle of the stones, the depth of the tracks, the direction of the whistle. The moors are no longer just a backdrop. They're a battlefield, and Holmes is mapping every inch. Let's break this down. The moors are a maze of danger and deception, hiding clues that point to both hope and dread. That brass button suggests someone from the school is involved, but who? A teacher? The cave's contents hint at a temporary hideout. But the blood, however small, raises the stakes. The torn cloth, too large for Arthur, could belong to an accomplice or a misdirection. And that whistle, it's a taunt, a sign that Holmes and Watson are not alone in this game. The Duke's shadow still looms, his secrets await on the case. Is he protecting his son or something else? The staff's behaviour, Mrs. Grayson's fidgeting, Jenkins's averted gaze suggests cracks in the school's facade. Holmes is closing in, but the moors are fighting back, guarding their truths with mist and menace. As Holmes and Watson near the school, the towers looming through the fog, they know the next move is critical. The clues are mounting, but so are the dangers. In Chapter 5, we'll delve deeper into the school's secrets, confronting the staff and uncovering a link that could blow this case wide open. Who was in that cave? And what does the Duke know that he's not telling? Drop your theories in the comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe with the notification bell on to stay with us for every heart-pounding twist. Let's keep chasing the truth together. The Priory School looms like a silent giant as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson return from the perilous moors, their boots caked with mud and their minds heavy with questions. Welcome back, mystery enthusiasts, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, you've got to catch up on chapters 1 through 4. Every clue counts in this twisting tale. Last time, Holmes and Watson braved the eerie moors of Mackleton, uncovering a brass button with the school's crest, a makeshift camp in a cave, a drop of blood, and a torn piece of cloth too large for young Arthur, Lord Saltire, a haunting whistle in the mist hinted they're not alone, and the Duke of Holdernesse's guarded demeanour looms larger than ever. Now, back within the school's ancient walls, Holmes is ready to turn up the heat on the staff, peeling back layers of deception to find the missing heir. This chapter is a labyrinth of suspicion, hidden truths, and a shocking revelation that will tighten the noose around this mystery. So, grab a hot drink, smash that like button, and let's dive into the heart of the Priory School's secrets. Evening sky is bruised with storm clouds as Holmes and Watson step into the school's grand hall, the air thick with the scent of old wood and wax polish. The atmosphere is taut, like a bowstring ready to snap. Teachers move quietly, their whispers fading when Holmes's sharp gaze sweeps over them. Students, usually boisterous, are subdued, their eyes darting as if expecting a ghost to appear. Dr. Huxtable, the headmaster, meets them at the foot of the staircase, his face a mask of anxiety. "Any progress, Mr. Holmes?" he asks, his voice quivering. Holmes's reply is curt. "Progress, Dr. Huxtable, depends on truth. I'll need to speak with your staff again." Huxtable hesitates, then nods, leading them to a small parlor where the fire crackles but does little to warm the chill of suspicion. Holmes begins with Mrs. Grayson, the matron, whose stern face seems carved from the same stone as the school's walls. She sits rigidly, her hands clasped tightly, that same handkerchief twisted in her fingers. Holmes holds up the brass button, its Priory School crest glinting in the firelight. "Recognize this?" he asks, his tone deceptively mild. Mrs. Grayson's eyes flicker, but she shakes her head. "It could belong to anyone here," she says. "All staff wear such buttons." Holmes leans closer, his voice dropping. "And yet this one was found on the moors, near a cave where someone camped. Care to explain?" Her composure cracks, her fingers tightening on the handkerchief. "I know nothing of the moors," she snaps, but her voice wavers. Holmes presses, asking about her midnight rounds, the locked dormitory, the boys' habits. She insists all was normal, but Holmes notices her glance toward the door, as if expecting someone to interrupt. He files it away, dismissing her with a nod but a promise to return. Next is Jenkins, the night watchman, whose burly frame fills the doorway. His gruff demeanor is unchanged, but his eyes avoid Holmes's as the detective sets the torn cloth on the table. "This was found near Standing Stones," Holmes says. "Too large for a boy, but it matches the school's uniform. Yours, perhaps?" Jenkins bristles, his face reddening. "I wasn't on no moors," he growls. "I guard the gates, not the wilderness." Holmes's questions are relentless. Where was he at midnight? Did he see anyone near the dormitory? Jenkins sticks to his story a brief nap. No strangers, no disturbances, but his hands clench, and a bead of sweat trickles down his temple. Watson, standing by the fire, catches Holmes's eye, sensing the man's unease. As Jenkins leaves, Holmes murmurs, "He's lying, Watson. Not about everything, but enough." With the staff dismissed, Holmes and Watson retreat to their guest room, a small chamber with creaking floorboards and a view of the moors. Holmes paces, his mind a whirlwind. The button, the cloth, the cave. They point to someone inside the school, he says, steepling his fingers. But the Duke's shadow is everywhere. His urgency, his secrecy, it's not just about his son. Watson nods, his practical mind grappling with the clues. That blood in the cave, Holmes, it worries me. If Arthur's hurt, Holmes cuts him off. If, Watson, we don't know whose blood it is. It could be a ruse. He pulls out the crude map, studying it under the lamplight. The X near the Standing Stones is precise, deliberate, but the handwriting is shaky, as if drawn in haste. This wasn't Arthur's work, Holmes says. A child's hand is steadier. Someone wanted us to find it. Holmes is next. Move is to revisit the headmaster's study, where the Duke's presence still lingers. The locked cabinet from Chapter 3 nags at him, a puzzle within a puzzle. Huxtable is reluctant, but Holmes's authority brooks no refusal. The study is as grand as before, the portrait of the Duke's late wife, gazing down with mournful eyes. Holmes examines the cabinet, its lock sturdy but not impenetrable. "Watson, your medical kit," he says. Watson produces a small metal tool, and Holmes, with surprising dexterity, picks the lock in moments. Inside are Paper's financial records, letters, and a photograph of a woman, not the late Duchess, but someone younger, her face striking yet. Unfamiliar, a letter, half hidden, catches Holmes's eye. It's addressed to the Duke, written in a hurried scrawl. The boy must be moved. They're watching. No signature, but the paper matches the ransom notes, cheap stock. Watson's. Jaw tightens. Holmes, this is explosive. The Duke's involved. Holmes's face is grim. Not directly, perhaps, but he knows more than he's told us. The discovery shifts the case like a fault line. The Duke's insistence on discretion, Huxtable's nervousness, the staff's evasions, they all point to a conspiracy rooted in the school. But why? Is Arthur's disappearance tied to his father's secrets, or is it a strike against the Duke's power? Holmes decides to confront Huxtable again, but as they leave the study, a crash echoes from the corridor. They rush out to find a broken vase, shards scattered across the floor, and a fleeting shadow disappearing around a corner. Watson draws his revolver, but Holmes stops him. "No, Watson, they're running scared. Let them." The shadow could be anyone: Jenkins, Mrs. Grayson, or someone yet unseen. Holmes kneels, examining the shards, and finds a tiny scrap of paper caught in the debris. It's a train ticket stub, dated 2 days ago, from London to Mackleton. "Someone came here the night Arthur vanished," Holmes says, his voice low, "and they're still here." The school feels like a pressure cooker now, every creak and whisper amplifying the tension. Holmes and Watson know they're closing in, but the danger is growing. The ticket stub suggests an outsider, but the button and cloth point to an insider. The letter in the cabinet hints at a plot far bigger than a simple kidnapping. Holmes's mind is a storm of connections, but he keeps his thoughts close, sharing only fragments with Watson. "We need to watch the Duke," he says. "His next move will tell us everything." Watson nods, his loyalty unwavering, but his worry for Arthur is palpable. If the boy's alive, Holmes, we're running out of time. Holmes's eyes are steel. "Then we won't waste it. Let's take a step back. The Priory School is a nest of secrets, with every player hiding something. The brass button and torn cloth tie the Moors to the school, but the train ticket and mysterious letter suggest a wider web. The Duke's involvement, whether as victim or orchestrator, is the key, and that locked cabinet was a goldmine. The broken vase and fleeing shadow prove someone's watching, desperate to cover their tracks. The drop of blood in the cave still haunts Watson, a grim reminder of what's at stake. Holmes is weaving these clues into a pattern, but the picture is still blurred. Is Arthur a runaway, a hostage, or something else entirely? The Moors and the school are twin mazes, and Holmes is navigating both with relentless precision. As Holmes and Watson plan their next move, shadowing the Duke and tracking the ticket stubs, owner the school feels like it's closing in. The truth is near, but so is danger. In Chapter 6, we'll follow Holmes as he sets a trap, using the school's own secrets against it. Who was that shadow, and what does the Duke fear? Drop your theories in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe with the notification bell on to catch every heart-pounding twist. Let's unravel this mystery together. The Priory School stands like a brooding sentinel, its stone walls hiding a maze of secrets as night falls over Mackleton. Welcome back, sleuths, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, you've got to catch up on chapters 1 through 5. This mystery is a web of clues you won't want to miss. Last time, Holmes and Watson uncovered a cryptic letter in a locked cabinet, a train ticket stub from the night Arthur vanished, and a broken vase, hinting at a shadowy figure watching their every move. The Duke of Holdernesse's guarded demeanor, the nervous staff, and the chilling clues from the Morse brass button, a torn cloth, a drop of blood have tightened the noose around this case. Now, with the school simmering with tension, Holmes is ready to turn the tables, setting a trap to flush out the truth. This chapter is a masterclass in deduction, packed with suspense, cunning strategy, and a twist that will leave you reeling. So, grab a notepad, smash that like button, and let's dive into the heart of this deadly game. Darkness has settled over the Priory School, the corridors lit only by flickering gas lamps that cast long, wavering shadows. Holmes and Watson sit in their guest room, the air thick with the scent of tobacco as Holmes puffs on his pipe, his eyes glinting like polished steel. The train ticket stub lies on the table, its edges worn from Holmes's scrutiny. London to Mackleton, dated the night Arthur disappeared, he murmurs, turning it over. Someone arrived just as the boy vanished. Coincidence, Watson? Watson, leaning against the fireplace, shakes his head. You don't believe in coincidences, Holmes. But who? A kidnapper, an accomplice? Holmes's smile is razor-thin, or both. The ticket is our bait, and the school is our trap. He outlines his plan. They'll spread word that they've found a critical clue, a lie, but one designed to provoke a reaction. Whoever dropped that ticket will make a move, and Holmes will be watching. Holmes begins by summoning Dr. Huxtable to the guest room, his demeanor calm but commanding. Dr. Huxtable, he says, holding up the ticket stub. We've found evidence of an outsider's presence the night Arthur vanished. I trust you'll inform your staff we're close to identifying them. Huxtable's face pales, his hands trembling as he nods. Of course, Mr. Holmes, but surely no one here. His voice falters under Holmes's gaze, and he hurries out, promising to spread the word. Watson frowns. Holmes, you're stirring a hornet's nest. If the wrong person hears this, Holmes's eyes gleam. That's the point, Watson. The guilty will act, and will be ready. They agree to split their efforts. Watson will watch the staff, particularly Mrs. Grayson and Jenkins, while Holmes shadows the Duke, whose secrets seem to anchor this mystery. As midnight approaches, the school feels like a living thing, its creaks and groans amplifying the tension. Watson takes up a post in the corridor near the staff quarters, his revolver hidden but ready. The gas lamps flicker, casting eerie shapes on the walls, and every sound a distant footstep, a muffled whisper sets his nerves on edge. He watches. Mrs. Grayson's door, noting a sliver of light beneath it despite the late hour. Suddenly, a shadow moves, swift and silent, slipping from her room toward the staircase. Watson follows, his heart pounding, keeping to the shadows. The figure pauses at the headmaster's study, glancing around before entering. Watson creeps closer, peering through the cracked door. It's Mrs. Grayson, her face taut with fear as she rummages through the desk, searching for something. Watson hesitates should he confront her, but a creak behind him makes him spin, revolver raised. It's only a loose floorboard, but the moment costs him. Mrs. Grayson slips out, clutching a small bundle, and vanishes down the corridor. Meanwhile, Holmes is a ghost in the Duke's quarters, a grand suite in the school's east wing. The Duke has retired for the night, but Holmes, ever resourceful, has slipped through a servant's entrance, his movements silent as a cat's. The room is opulent, with velvet drapes and a massive four-poster bed, but Holmes's focus is on a small writing desk. He finds a locked drawer, and with a deft twist of his lockpick, it opens to reveal a bundle of letters tied with string. One catches his eye, written in the same scrawl as the ransom note and the letter from the cabinet. The boy is safe. But the price is firm. No tricks. Holmes's pulse quickens. This is no coincidence. He pockets the letter, but as he turns to leave, a floorboard groans underfoot. The Duke stirs, his voice sharp in the darkness. "Who's there?" Holmes melts into the shadows, slipping out before the nobleman can rise. But his heart races not from fear, but from the thrill of the chase. Holmes and Watson reconvene in the guest room, comparing notes under the dim glow of a single lamp. Watson recounts Mrs. Grayson's midnight search, describing the bundle she carried, papers, perhaps, or something more incriminating. Holmes shows Watson the letter, its words a damning link to the ransom note. The Duke is entangled. Holmes says, his voice low, either he's paying the kidnappers or he's orchestrating this himself. But why? Watson's mind reels. For money, power, or to hide a scandal? Holmes shakes his head. It's personal, Watson. The boy is the key, not just his title. They decide to confront Mrs. Grayson at dawn, but Holmes has one more card to play. He writes a note of his own, mimicking the kidnapper's scrawl. "We have the ticket. Meet at the Standing Stones, midnight." He slips it under Jenkins's door, knowing the watchman's nerves will betray him if he's involved. The night drags on, each hour heavy with anticipation. Holmes and Watson take turns keeping watch, their eyes on the staff quarters and the Duke's wing. At one point, a faint light flickers in the distance, out on the moors. A lantern, perhaps, or a signal. Watson grips his revolver, but Holmes stays his hand. "Patience, Watson. Our trap is set, and the mice are stirring." By dawn, the school is a powder keg, every glance and whisper charged with suspicion. Holmes's plan has worked. Mrs. Grayson's furtive search and the Duke's hidden letter prove the guilty are rattled. But the ticket stub's owner remains a shadow, and that distant light on the moors hints at a larger game. Holmes is closing in, but the stakes are higher than ever. Arthur's life hangs in the balance, and every clue points to a truth buried deep within the school's walls or beyond them. Let's unpack this for a moment. Holmes's trap is a stroke of genius, using the ticket stub to flush out the guilty, like hounds chasing a fox. Mrs. Grayson's midnight raid suggests she's hiding something, Kritupa papers, perhaps tied to the Duke's secrets. The letter in the Duke's desk is a bombshell, linking him directly to the kidnappers. But is he a victim or a mastermind? Jenkins's silence is deafening, and that light on the moors raises chilling questions. Is Arthur out there, or is someone staging a distraction? The school is a pressure cooker, with every player Huxtable, Grayson, Jenkins, the Duke hiding pieces of the puzzle. Holmes is weaving these threads with surgical precision, but the danger is growing. That drop of blood in the cave, the whistle in the mist, the shadow in the corridor, they're all closing in, and Holmes must stay one step ahead as dawn breaks. Holmes and Watson prepare to confront Mrs. Grayson and watch for Jenkins's reaction to the fake note. The moors loom outside, their secrets still guarded, but Holmes is ready to crack them open. In Chapter 7, we'll see the trap spring, revealing a truth that could change everything. Who's behind that letter? And what's waiting at the standing stones? Drop your theories in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe, with the notification bell on to catch every pulse-pounding twist. Let's keep hunting the truth together. The Priory School is a cauldron of secrets as the clock ticks toward midnight, its ancient walls seeming to pulse with the weight of hidden truths. Welcome back, detective fans, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, you're in for a wild ride. Go back and watch chapters 1 through 6 to catch every twist of this gripping mystery. Last time, Holmes set a cunning trap, planting a fake note to flush out the guilty and uncovering a damning letter in the Duke's desk that links him to the kidnappers. Mrs. Grayson's midnight rummaging, a train ticket stub from the night. Arthur vanished, and a fleeting light on the moors have turned the heat up on this case. Now, with the school simmering like a storm about to break, Holmes and Watson prepare for a high-stakes rendezvous at the Standing Stones, hoping to catch their quarry in the act. This chapter is a roller coaster of suspense, stealth, and a revelation that will shake the case to its core. So, grab a flashlight, hit that like button, and let's venture into the night. The air in the guest room is thick with tension as Holmes and Watson prepare for their midnight gambit. The fake note Holmes slipped under Jenkins's door. We have the ticket. Meet at the Standing Stones. Midnight is their bait, designed to draw out whoever's entangled in Arthur's disappearance. Holmes, his eyes gleaming with focus, checks his pocket watch. It's ticking a steady heartbeat in the silence. Watson, he says, his voice low. Tonight we unmask our shadow. Stay sharp and keep that revolver close. Watson, his face set with determination, nods, patting the weapon in his coat. The memory of the whistle in the moors, the drop of blood in the cave, and the fleeting figure in the corridor weighs heavy on him. If Arthur's out there, Holmes, we can't fail him, he says. Holmes's gaze softens for a moment, a rare flicker of humanity. We won't, old friend. They slip out of the school under cover of darkness, the night air biting and heavy with the scent of damp heather. The moors are a void of shadow, the mist swirling like a living thing, muffling their footsteps as they follow the narrow path to the Standing Stones. The monoliths loom ahead, their jagged silhouettes stark against the starless sky, ancient and unyielding. Holmes moves like a phantom, his long coat blending with the fog, while Watson keeps pace, his senses on high alert. They reach the stones and take cover behind a boulder, their breaths shallow as they wait. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the rustle of wind through the gorse. Holmes's eyes scan the darkness, his mind a steel trap, every nerve tuned for the slightest sign. Minutes drag like hours, the cold seeping into their bones. Then, a faint crunch of graveler footstep, deliberate but cautious. Watson grips his revolver, but Holmes's hand steadies him. A figure emerges from the mist, cloaked in a dark coat, moving toward the center of the stones. The figure pauses, scanning the shadows, and Holmes's breath catches as he recognizes the silhouette, not Jenkins, but Mrs. Grayson, her stern face pale in the moonlight. She clutches a small parcel, her movements jerky with fear. "Show yourself," she hisses, her voice cutting through the night. Holmes steps forward, his presence like a thunderclap. "Good evening, Mrs. Grayson," he says, his tone calm but laced with steel. "Care to explain your presence here?" She gasps, dropping the parcel, which spills papers onto the ground letters, maps, and a photograph of a young boy. Unmistakably Arthur. Watson scrambles to gather the papers as Mrs. Grayson stammers, her composure crumbling. I had no choice, she says, her voice trembling. They threatened me, said they'd hurt him if I didn't help. Holmes's eyes narrow. Who, Mrs. Grayson? Name them. She hesitates, her gaze darting to the moors, and in that moment, a second figure lunges from the shadows, a man, masked, wielding a heavy stick. Watson reacts instinctively, tackling the attacker to the ground, the revolver clattering away. A brief struggle ensues, Watson's military training giving him the edge as he pins the man, tearing off the mask to reveal Jenkins. The night watchman, his face twisted with panic. You don't understand, Jenkins shouts. It's bigger than you know. Holmes, unfazed, binds Jenkins's hands with a length of cord from his satchel, while Watson retrieves the papers. Among them is a letter in the same scrawl as the ransom note, addressed to Mrs. Grayson. Deliver the boys. Things to the stones. No police, or he's dead. Holmes's mind races, piecing together the threads. You were coerced, he says to Mrs. Grayson, his voice cold but probing. By whom? The Duke. She shakes her head, tears streaming. Not the Duke, his secretary, Mr. Wilder. He came that night, from London. He said it was for Arthur's safety, but I didn't trust him. Watson's jaw drops. Wilder, the Duke's man. Holmes's face is grim. A trusted confidant, Watson, and the perfect shadow to hide a scheme. The papers reveal more. A map matching the one under Arthur's mattress, but with additional markings: safe houses, rendezvous points, and a name, the Black Bull, a tavern in Mackleton. The photograph of Arthur shows him smiling, but there's a note on the back, safe for now, £5,000 by tomorrow. Holmes pockets the evidence, his mind a whirlwind of connections. Mrs. Grayson, sobbing, confesses she was to leave Arthur's belongings as a signal to the kidnappers, but she swears she doesn't know where the boy is. Jenkins, sullen and defeated, admits he let Wilder into the school that night, bribed with a promise of money. I didn't know they'd take the lad, he mutters. Holmes's eyes blaze. You sold a child's safety, Jenkins. Pray he's unharmed. The confrontation is cut short by a distant shout from the Morse boy's voice, faint but unmistakable. Watson's heart leaps. Arthur, he cries, but Holmes grabs his arm. Careful, Watson. It could be a lure. They secure Mrs. Grayson and Jenkins, tying them to a stone to ensure they don't flee, and follow the sound, moving swiftly but cautiously. The moors are a labyrinth, the mist thickening, but Holmes's compass and map keep them on course. They reach a small hollow where a lantern flickers, revealing a figure, a boy, bound and gagged, his eyes wide with fear. It's Arthur, alive but shivering, his face bruised but defiant. Watson rushes to free him, while Holmes scans the shadows, expecting an ambush. None comes, but a note pinned to Arthur's coat reads, You're too late, Holmes. The boy, trembling, whispers, They said my father betrayed me. Holmes's face hardens, the words striking like a match in his mind. They hurry Arthur back to the school, shielding him from the cold, but the note burns in Holmes's thoughts. The Duke's secretary, Wilder, is the key, but the Duke himself is no innocent bystander. Back at the school, they place Arthur in Huxtable's care, the headmaster nearly collapsing with relief. But Holmes is far from done. Wilder came from London, he says to Watson. The ticket stub, the letters, it's all him. But why? And where is he now? The Black Bull Tavern is their next lead, a den of secrets in Mackleton's underbelly. Let's break this down. Holmes's trap worked, exposing Mrs. Grayson and Jenkins as reluctant pawns, coerced by the mysterious Wilder. The boys' rescue is a triumph, but the note's warning, "You're too late," suggests a larger game. Is Wilder acting alone, or is the Duke pulling strings? The tavern, the maps, the letters, they point to a conspiracy rooted in power and betrayal. Arthur's words about his father cut deep, hinting at a family secret that could unravel everything. The Moors are still watching, and Wilder is out there, a shadow in the fog. Holmes is closing in, but the danger is far from over. As Holmes and Watson prepare to storm the Black Bull, the school feels like a battlefield, its secrets spilling like blood. In Chapter 8, we'll chase Wilder into Mackleton's shadows, where the truth about Arthur's disappearance and the Duke's role will come to light. Who is Wilder, and what's his endgame? Drop your theories in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe with the bell on to catch every heart-stopping twist. Let's hunt the truth together. The Priory School stands like a fortress under a moonless sky, its walls a silent witness to the drama that has unfolded within and beyond. Welcome back, mystery hunters, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, you're in for a heart-pounding ride. Go back and watch chapters 1 through 7 to catch every twist of this intricate case. Last time, Holmes's cunning trap at the Standing Stones paid off, rescuing young Arthur, Lord Saltier, and exposing Mrs. Grayson and Jenkins as coerced pawns in a plot orchestrated by the Duke's secretary, Mr. Wilder. A cryptic note pinned to Arthur's coat, "You're too late, Holmes," and the boys' chilling words about his father's betrayal have raised the stakes. The trail now leads to the Black Bull, a shadowy tavern in Mackleton, where secrets fester like wounds. This chapter is a plunge into the underbelly of the mystery, brimming with danger, deception, and a confrontation that will redefine the case. So, grab a warm drink, hit that like button, and let's chase the truth into the dark. The school is quiet as Holmes and Watson prepare for their next move, the air heavy with the aftershock of Arthur's rescue. Young Arthur, now safe in Dr. Huxtable's care, is pale but unharmed beyond a few bruises, his eyes haunted by what he's endured. Holmes, standing by a window overlooking the moors, is a study in focus, his pipe sending curls of smoke into the dim room. Wilder is the linchpin. "Watson," he says, his voice low and intense. The ticket stub, the letters, the maps all point to him. But the Duke's role, that's the shadow we must illuminate. Watson, checking his revolver, nods grimly. Arthur said his father betrayed him. Holmes. Could the Duke be behind? This, Holmes's eyes narrow. Not directly, perhaps, but he's entangled. The Black Bull will tell us how. They slip out of the school, leaving Arthur under guard, and head for Mackleton's gritty heart. The town of Mackleton is a stark contrast to the Priory School's grandeur, a cluster of low stone buildings huddled against the moor's relentless wind. The Black Bull Tavern squats at the edge of town, its sign creaking in the breeze, its windows glowing with a sickly yellow light. The air smells of stale ale and coal smoke as Holmes and Watson approach, their coats pulled tight against the chill. Holmes pauses at the door, his senses sharp. "This is no gentleman's club, Watson," he murmurs. "Stay alert." Inside, the tavern is a den of rough voices and clinking glasses, filled with locals, miners, farmers, and drifters whose eyes flick toward the strangers with suspicion. The barman, a burly man with a scarred face, wipes a glass with a rag, his gaze lingering on Holmes. "What'll it be, gents?" He grunts. Holmes, ever the chameleon, adopts a casual tone. "Information," he says, sliding a coin across the counter. "About a man named Welder." The barman's hand freezes, his eyes narrowing. "Don't know, no Welder," he says, too quickly. Holmes leans closer, his voice dropping. "A London man, arrived 3 days ago. Fond of secrets." The barman's jaw tightens, but he jerks his head toward a back room, curtained off with a tattered cloth. Holmes and Watson move swiftly, slipping through the crowd, their senses on edge. The back room is dim, lit by a single lantern, its air thick with tobacco and tension. A man sits at a table, his back to the wall, a pint untouched. Before him, he's lean, with sharp features and eyes like a fox wilder, unmistakably. He doesn't flinch as Holmes and Watson approach, but his hand hovers near his coat, suggesting a hidden weapon. "Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice smooth but cold, "you're persistent." Holmes takes a seat, his demeanor calm but his eyes locked on Wilder's. "Where is the boy's trail, Wilder?" he asks, cutting to the chase. "You've played a dangerous game, and it ends tonight." Wilder's lips curl into a smirk. "You've found the boy, haven't you? Then why are you here?" Watson bristles, but Holmes remains ice cool. "Because this isn't about Arthur alone. The letters, the ransom, the Duke's secrets. What's your price?" Wilder's smirk fades, his fingers twitching. "You think you know the game, Holmes, but you're missing the board. The Duke's enemies are legion, and Arthur was leverage." Holmes leans forward, his voice a blade. "Leverage for what? Blackmail, power." Wilder's eyes dart to the curtain, and in that moment, a heavy thud echoes from the main room, a distraction. Deliberate and timed, Watson spins, revolver drawn, as 2 rough-looking men burst through. The curtain, knives glinting. Holmes reacts with lightning speed, appending the table to block their advance, while Watson fires a warning shot into the ceiling, freezing the room. The thugs hesitate, but Wilder seizes the chaos, bolting for a back door. Holmes is after him like a hound, tackling him to the ground just outside in a muddy alley. The struggle is fierce, Wilder's wiry strength surprising, but Holmes pins him, his knee pressing into the man's back. "Talk, Wilder," he snarls. "Who's pulling your strings?" Wilder, panting, spits out, "You'll never touch him, he's untouchable." Watson, having subdued the thugs with the barman's reluctant help, joins them, binding Wilder's hands with rope from a nearby crate. The interrogation is tense, conducted in the alley's shadows as rain begins to fall, cold and relentless. Wilder, defiant but cornered, reveals fragments of the truth. He's the Duke's secretary, yes, but also a fixer, hired to handle delicate matters. Arthur's kidnapping was no random act, it was orchestrated to pressure the Duke into settling a debt, not of money but of influence. The Duke's enemies wanted him humiliated, Wilder says, his voice bitter. "I was to deliver the boy to them, but I didn't trust their word." He admits to hiding Arthur in the moors, using the cave as a temporary hold, but claims he never meant harm. The blood, a cut from his own hand, a ruse to scare off searchers. The note, "You're too late," was a bluff, meant to throw Holmes off. But when pressed about the mastermind, Wilder clams up, his fear palpable. You don't know what you're up against, Holmes, he whispers. This goes higher than you think. Holmes and Watson drag Wilder back to the school, turning him over to Huxtable with strict instructions to keep him secure. The rain-soaked trek is silent, the weight of Wilder's words sinking in. The Duke's enemies, political rivals, perhaps, or a shadow from his past, suggest a conspiracy far beyond a simple kidnapping. Arthur's safety is no longer enough. Holmes must uncover the puppet master. Back at the school, the Duke is waiting, his face a mask of fury and fear. "You found my son," he says, his voice tight. "Now leave this alone, Holmes." Holmes's eyes are cold. "Your Grace, your secrets nearly cost your son his life. I'll have the truth, or you'll answer to more than me." The Duke pales, but says nothing, retreating to his quarters. Let's break this down. Wilder's confession cracks the case wide open, revealing a plot to manipulate the Duke through Arthur. The Black Bull was a nexus of secrets, and Wilder's role as a double-dealing fixer ties the Moors to the school. But his refusal to name the mastermind hints at a power even the Duke fears. The blood in the cave, the maps, the letters, all were Wilder's tools, but someone else wrote the script. The Duke's reaction, anger, mixed with dread. He knows more than he's admitted. The school remains a hotbed of deception, with Mrs. Grayson and Jenkins as pawns. But the real game is played in higher circles. Holmes is closer, but the danger is mounting. And Arthur's words, "My father betrayed me," echo like a warning as Holmes and Watson plan their next move. The Moors seem to tighten their grip, the rain a curtain hiding the truth. In Chapter 9, we'll confront the Duke Hedon, peeling back his secrets to find the mastermind behind this deadly game. Who's pulling the strings, and what do they want? Drop your theories in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe with the bell on to catch every pulse-pounding twist. Let's unravel the truth together. The Priory School stands, shrouded in a cold dawn, its stone walls a silent witness to the unraveling mystery that has gripped Mackleton. Welcome back, detective fans, to Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just tuning in, you're in for a thrilling ride. Catch up on chapters 1 through 8 to follow every twist of this intricate case. Last time, Holmes and Watson stormed the Black Bull Tavern, capturing the Duke's secretary, Mr. Wilder, who confessed to orchestrating Arthur's kidnapping as leverage against the Duke's enemies. A cryptic warning, you're too late. Holmes and Arthur's chilling claim that his father betrayed him have pointed to a deeper conspiracy. With Wilder in custody and the Moors still whispering secrets, Holmes is ready to confront the Duke of Holdernesse himself, peeling back layers of power and deception to uncover the mastermind. This chapter is a masterclass in tension, packed with revelations, raw emotion, and a truth that will shake the case to its foundations. So, grab a cozy blanket, smash that like button, and let's dive into the heart of the storm. The schools. Grand Hall is quiet as Holmes and Watson prepare for their confrontation, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and the faint tense of rain-soaked earth. Arthur, now resting under Dr. Huxtable's watchful eye, is safe but shaken, his words about his father's betrayal echoing in Holmes's mind. Wilder, locked in a storage room under Jenkins's reluctant guard, has given them a piece of the puzzle, but the picture is still incomplete. Holmes, pacing in their guest room, is a coiled spring, his pipe abandoned as his thoughts race. "The Duke is the key, Watson," he says, his voice sharp with purpose. "His secrets are the root of this, and he'll answer for them today." Watson, checking his revolver, nods grimly. He nearly lost his son, Holmes. If he's hiding something, it's monstrous. Holmes's eyes gleam. Monstrous or desperate will know soon. They find the Duke in his opulent suite, standing by a window overlooking the moors, his face a mask of aristocratic control. The room is a study in wealth velvet drapes, a roaring fire, a portrait of the late Duchess gazing mournfully from the wall. But the Duke's composure cracks as Holmes enters, his eyes narrowing at the detective's purposeful stride. "Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice low and strained, "you've found my son. Your work is done. Leave us." Holmes's smile is cold, his tone cutting. "Your Grace, my work ends when the truth is out. Your secretary, Wilder, has confessed to kidnapping Arthur. He claims it was to pressure you, but I suspect you know why." Watson, standing by the door, watches the Duke's hands clench, a flicker of fear crossing his face. Holmes lays out the evidence like a prosecutor, the letter in the Duke's desk, matching the ransom note's scrawl, the train ticket stub from the night Arthur vanished, Wilder's confession about leveraging the boy against the Duke's enemies. "You've been playing a dangerous game, Your Grace," Holmes says, his voice unrelenting. "Arthur said you betrayed him. What did he mean?" The Duke's face pales, his shoulders sagging as if the weight of years presses down. He sinks into a chair, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't understand, Holmes. I had no choice." Watson's jaw tightens, but Holmes remains impassive, his eyes locked on the nobleman. "Then explain," he says, "for your son's sake." The Duke's confession spills out like a dam breaking, each word heavy with guilt and fear. Years ago, he made enemies powerful men in London's political circles, rivals who coveted his influence and wealth. One, a shadowy figure known only as Lord Blackwood, held a secret that could ruin the Duke, a scandal involving the late Duchess, a hidden affair that would tarnish the family name. Blackwood demanded the Duke's support in a political scheme, threatening to expose the truth if he refused. When the Duke resisted, Blackwood turned to Wilder, the Duke's trusted secretary, who was already in debt and vulnerable to manipulation. Wilder orchestrated Arthur's kidnapping to force the Duke's compliance, staging it to look like an outside job. The cave, the blood, the mapsule were Wilder's tools to keep the Duke in line while protecting Arthur from Blackwood's more ruthless agents. Arthur overheard Wilder talking, the Duke says, his voice breaking. "He thought I'd given him up to save myself. I didn't, Holmes, I swear it. I paid Wilder to keep him safe, to hide him until I could settle with Blackwood." Watson's face softens with pity, but Holmes is unmoved. "You'll let your son be taken," he says, his tone icy. "You trusted a traitor with his life." The Duke's eyes well with tears, a rare crack in his aristocratic facade. "I thought I could control it," he whispers. "I was wrong." Holmes presses further, demanding Blackwood's identity and whereabouts. The Duke hesitates, fear flickering in his eyes. "He's dangerous, Holmes, more than you know. He's in London, but he has men here, watching." The revelation shifts, the case like a tectonic plate. Blackwood is the mastermind, a puppet master pulling strings from afar, using Wilder as his tool and Arthur as his weapon. But the Duke's confession raises new questions. Why didn't he go to the police? What hold does Blackwood have beyond a scandal? Holmes's mind races, connecting the dots, the ticket stub, the letters, the light on the moors. He suspects Blackwood's men are closer than the Duke thinks, perhaps even within the school. We need to see Arthur, Holmes says, his voice urgent. He may know more than he's told. They hurry to the infirmary, where Arthur lies under blankets, his young face pale but resolute. The boy's eyes widen at Holmes's approach, a mix of fear and trust. "They said my father didn't want me," he whispers. "They said he'd let them take me." Holmes kneels beside the boy, his voice gentle but probing. "Who, Arthur, who said this?" The boy hesitates, then describes a man with a scar on his cheek, seen in the moors before he was bound. Watson's breath catches the barman from the Black Bull. Holmes's face hardens. Blackwood's agent, here in Mackleton. The net is tightening. They leave Arthur with Huxtable, who's now a nervous wreck, and plan their next move. The barman must be questioned, and trail followed to London. But the school feels like a trap, its corridors alive with unseen eyes. As they step into the hall, a sudden crash echoes a window shattering in the Duke's suite. Holmes and Watson race back, finding the room empty, the portrait of the Duchess slashed, and a note scrawled on the wall. "Leave, or the boy dies." Again, the threat is a jolt, proof that Blackwood's reach extends into the school. Holmes examines the broken glass, noting muddy boot prints leading to the moors. "They're desperate," he says, his voice alive with purpose. And desperate men make mistakes. Watson grips his revolver, his resolve hardening. "We end this, Holmes." For Arthur, the detective nods, his mind a storm of strategy. The barman, the boot prints, Blackwood's shadow, they're all converging, and Holmes is ready to strike. Let's unpack this. The Duke's confession lays bare a web of blackmail and betrayal, with Blackwood as the spider at its center. Wilder was a pawn, Arthur a tool, and the Duke a man caught between pride and fear. The barman's scarred face ties the Black Bull to the moors, and the slashed portrait is a warning Blackwood's men are close, and they're watching. Arthur's safety is still at risk, and the school is a battleground. Holmes is closing in, but Blackwood's power is a looming threat, his agents bold enough to strike under their noses. The case is no longer just about a missing boy, it's a fight against a hidden empire, as Holmes and Watson prepare to hunt the barman and trace Blackwood to London. The stakes are higher than ever. In Chapter 10, we'll face the final showdown, where the truth about Blackwood and the Duke's secrets will come to light. Who is Blackwood, and how far does his reach extend? Drop your theories in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe with the bell on to catch the explosive finale. Let's hunt the truth together. The Priory School stands like a fortress under siege, its ancient walls trembling with the weight of secrets as a storm brews over the Mackleton moors. Welcome back, mystery lovers, to the thrilling conclusion of Sherlock Holmes and the Vanished Boy of Priory School. If you're just joining us, you've missed a wild ride catch-up on chapters 1 through 9 to follow every twist of this heart-pounding case. Last time, the Duke of Holdernesse confessed to a web of blackmail orchestrated by a shadowy figure. Lord Blackwood, with his secretary Wilder as the puppet and young Arthur as the pawn. A slashed portrait, a threatening note, "Leave, or the boy dies again," and muddy boot prints leading to the moors revealed Blackwood's agents are closer than ever. With Arthur safe but the mastermind still at large, Holmes and Watson are ready for a final showdown to unmask Blackwood and end his reign of terror. This chapter is a crescendo of suspense, bravery, and truth, tying every clue into a shattering resolution. So, grab a cup of tea, smash that like button, and let's bring this mystery home. Dawn breaks over the school, painting the moors in shades of grey and gold, but the air is electric with danger. Holmes and Watson stand in the Duke's suite, the shattered window letting in a cold wind that carries the scent of rain-soaked heather. The slashed portrait of the Duchess lies in ruins, its frame splintered, the scrawled threat on the wall a stark warning. Holmes examines the boot prints, his magnifying glass glinting as he notes their size and tread. Heavy boots, recently cleaned but caked with more mud, he murmurs. Our scarred barman from the Black Bull, Watson. He's Blackwood's eyes here. Watson's grip tightens on his revolver, his face set with resolve. Then we hunt him, Holmes. This ends. Today, Holmes nods, his eyes burning with purpose. First the barman, then Blackwood. But we must move quickly. Arthur's safety hangs by a thread. They leave the Duke under Huxtable's guard, with strict orders to keep Arthur hidden in the infirmary. Holmes's plan is twofold. Track the barman back to the Black Bull and use Wilder, still locked in the storage room, to draw out Blackwood's network. They slip out of the school, the moors stretching before them like a battlefield, the mist curling like a predator waiting to strike. The trek to Mackleton is tense, the wind howling as if warning them back. Holmes carries the letters, the train ticket stub, and the photograph of Arthur, each a weapon in his arsenal. Watson, ever the soldier, scans the horizon, his revolver ready. If Blackwood's men are watching, Holmes, they'll know we're coming, he says. Holmes's smile is grim. Good, let them sweat. The Black Bull Tavern looms at the edge of town, its creaking sign a beacon in the morning light. The streets of Mackleton are quiet, the townsfolk wary of the strangers who stirred trouble. Inside, the tavern is nearly empty, the air thick with stale ale and tension. The barman, his scarred cheek unmistakable, freezes as Holmes and Watson enter, his hand inching toward a cudgel under the counter. Holmes is faster, slamming the train ticket stub on the bar. Yours, I presume, he says, his voice like a blade. Or shall I ask Lord Blackwood? The barman's eyes widen, but he recovers, sneering. You're out of your depth, detective. Walk away. Watson steps forward, his revolver glinting. Where's Blackwood? Talk, or you'll answer to more than us. The barman lunges, but Holmes anticipated it, sidestepping and pinning the man's arm with a deft twist. Your boots betray you, Holmes says, nodding to the mud-caked soles matching the prints in the Duke's suite. You were at the school. Last night. Where's Blackwood? The barman, sweating, spits defiance. London. You'll never touch him. But Holmes's questions are relentless, peeling back layers of lies. The barman, whose name is Carter, admits to being local enforcer, tasked with watching the school and delivering threats. The slashed portrait was his work, a warning to the Duke to comply. But when pressed about Blackwood's location, Carter clams up, fear overtaking his bravado. He'll kill me, he whispers. Holmes's eyes narrow. Then you'll face justice instead. They bind Carter and return to the school, dragging him to confront Wilder. The storage room is a stark cell, lit by a single lantern where Wilder sits, his fox-like face pale but defiant. Holmes lays out the evidence, the letters, the barman's confession, Arthur's rescue. Your game's up, Wilder, he says. Blackwood's name is out. Where is he? Wilder's smirk fades, his eyes darting to Carter, who glares back. You don't understand, Holmes, Wilder says. Blackwood's not just a man, he's a machine. He owns half of London's shadows. But under Holmes's unrelenting pressure, Wilder cracks, revealing Blackwood's base, a discreet club in London's East End, a front for his criminal empire. He wanted the Duke's vote on a land deal, Wilder confesses. Arthur was leverage to force it through. Holmes and Watson leave Wilder and Carter under guard, racing to the infirmary to check on Arthur. The boy is awake, his eyes clearer but still haunted. Holmes kneels beside him, his voice gentle. "Arthur, you said your father betrayed you. Tell me everything." The boy's story spills out. He overheard Wilder and Carter arguing in the moors, Carter saying the Duke had sold him to save his name. Arthur tried to run but was caught, bound, and hidden in the cave. Holmes reassures him, "Your father was weak, not cruel. We'll make this right." The boy's trust in Holmes is a spark in the darkness, but the threat of Blackwood looms. Holmes wires Scotland Yard, arranging for Wilder and Carter to be taken into custody, but he and Watson must face Blackwood themselves. They board a train to London, the moors fading behind them, replaced by the city's smoky sprawl. The club, hidden behind a nondescript facade, is a fortress of vice, guarded by Blackwood's men. Holmes, disguised as a dock worker, and Watson, posing as a gambler, infiltrate the club, their nerves steeled. Inside, Blackwood awaits a tall, gaunt man with eyes like coal, his presence commanding. "Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice smooth as poison, "you've meddled too far." But Holmes is ready, revealing a dossier of evidence letters, maps, confessions gathered from the school and tavern. "Your empire ends tonight," he says, as Watson signals yard officers waiting outside. The confrontation is swift and brutal. Blackwood's men outmatched by the police. Blackwood, cornered, tries to flee but is caught, his empire crumbling under the weight of Holmes's evidence. Back at the school, the Duke embraces Arthur, tears in his eyes, vowing to protect him. Holmes watches, his face unreadable. "You owe your son more than your name, your grace," he says. The Duke nods, broken but resolute. "Let's wrap this up." Blackwood's plot was a masterstroke of blackmail, using Arthur to bend the Duke to his will. The moors, the school, the tavern were stages in his game, but Holmes's relentless logic tore it apart. The Duke's weakness, Wilder's betrayal, Carter's muscle, they all fell to the detective's genius. Arthur is safe, but the scars of betrayal linger. Holmes and Watson return to Baker Street, the case closed but the echoes of the moors still in their minds. What a journey, folks. Did Blackwood's downfall surprise you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe with the bell on to join us for more Sherlock adventures. Share this video with your fellow sleuths, and let's keep the mysteries coming. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.